think I'm even going to go a notch lower to a D. How soon they our clock is ready. Yeah, Todd's last week because he and Kelly were here. It was funny. More important second service. Yes, yeah, yes. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near, gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near, gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world, or in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Good to see all of you. Can you all see me okay? Even so, I'm going to ask Adam to turn those spots on just a little bit so our stage is a little more well lit, since we have some special things going on this morning. But first, as always, want to begin by fully embracing all that you bring with you to this place, your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, all that make you who you are is welcome here today. This includes, of course, all of you who are here. Even those who are hearing this for the first time, you're equally as welcome and appreciated. And of course, welcome to all of those who are streaming with us this morning. We're also glad to have you, although Dorothy Mell is not streaming with us today because I saw her here live and in person. Where are you at, Dorothy? There you are. Good to see you. I did say hi to you a couple of weeks ago. You saw that, and we all applauded. Yeah? Good. So, even better in person, my friend. Got a lot going on. You probably noticed on your way in today. So, I want to just give a few extended announcements this morning. Firstly, you'll notice that our unity candle is lit at the front of our church. For those who are familiar with this, this is something we light when one of our members has passed away. And this week, Eleanor Beaton passed away after some time under hospice care. Want to keep her son and daughter-in-law, John and Barbara Beaton, in our hearts and thoughts. They're also members of our congregation, so please be thinking about all of them. And you will notice that our holiday craft fair is going on today. You'll have more opportunity to see some of the wonderful crafts and talk with some of the artisans as well during our social period. One thing you might not notice quite as easily because of all we have going on is our Bite to Go holiday food drive table. I think it's actually been moved into the foyer. Please don't miss that. This is something we do every year to help provide meals to some of the kids at Balboa Elementary School who might not otherwise have a holiday meal. So this year we're trying to raise $650 in order to give, I think 25 kids, maybe that adds up or not, $25 gift certificates to the grocery store to help with their family holiday meal. So thanks to everyone helping with that. There's Georgette. What? Yes, what am I missing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Thank you. Yep. Perfect. Appreciate everyone's generosity. And then, as you may have already noticed, we have some very special guests with us today, members of the GOAT Collective, Greatness of a Time Collective, who are going to be here also next Saturday morning between 10 and 11:30, leading us in diversity, inclusion, and equity training. So I thought today'd be a great way to kind of introduce that through a service as well as introduce them. So they're gonna say a little more about who they are during our service, and you'll get to see a little bit more about who they are during our service as well. But we have over here on my far left, this is Gerard Grant, and Randy Corradine is in the center there, and then Michael Bethley is over here closest to me. So it's been great getting to work with them and know them over the past few weeks and even months at this point. So not only will they be doing a training next week, but there will be a follow-up training later on in the year. So they'll be coming in and out of our lives for the next year as we really focus on something that's very badly needed at this time. Although I don't know if it's any more badly needed than it ever has been, sad to say. But diversity is a huge part of our focus and our mission in this church. So we so appreciate you being here and your leadership in helping us go farther. Yeah. So welcome. I know that's a lot, but it's always special to take a few moments to greet one another. So let's do that now.
Thanks.
She wasn't sure if it was
Yeah, they called. I'm going to mention them during our handout here. It's okay. Thank you. I hope she'll come back. Yeah. thank you, and as always, there'll be more opportunity to visit during our social hour following our service. Before we light our chalice, in just a second, I did fail to mention another important welcome. I think they may be here more for our second service, but wanted to let you know that all weekend there's been a leadership development youth conference going on right here at our church. This is the first ever such conference in this district or this cluster, and there have been 14 participants from 5 different Unitarian Universalist churches. I think are any of you participants here right now? I think they're coming for the second service, but wanted to let you know that if you see them, be sure and say welcome. We're so pleased that they're here. But for now, let's move forward by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who were cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world, and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
Good morning. So first off, I just would like to say that we're extremely excited to be here. I know that we've had the opportunity to really travel around quite a bit, Washington, Oregon, Pacific Northwest area, to connect with many different communities around this work of social justice. And this is really the first time we've been able to come in and connect with a community in a congregation. So thank you for allowing us in your space. And we're really looking forward to next week. I know that we're seen as as the trainers and the experts, but we really like to see it as a community conversation, right? Of us we don't see ourselves as experts, but just a lot of experience when it comes to this work. And what we really hope to bring and learn, and what we hope for you to be able to learn and take as much from the workshop, we also really hope to learn as much from you, because we all bring something different and individual stories and backgrounds. So thank you, and really looking forward to next week. Again, my name is Gerard Grant. I guess you could say my professional career is I'm the director of our Diversity and Equity Center over in the west side of Washington at the Everett Community College. And I've been there for about 5 to 6 years. And I guess to give a little background about myself, I was born in Texas. My mom was born in Texas. My dad was born in South Carolina, and both of them were in the Navy. So traveled around a little bit before we came to Washington and made Washington home. And it's been home since. Went to college over in Eastern Washington University. I have 2 younger brothers, and so my name is Gerard. My middle brother's name is Jarrell. My youngest brother's name is Jared, and my dad's name is Gerald. So when someone got in trouble, it was a beautiful thing for them to go through and say, Gerard, and you know who was in trouble? We just waited till they got to your name, right? But just speaking to the foundation of really what this congregation and church is based upon, I know that's what we really try to practice each day. And really, we do, again, much workshops with working with folks around how can we best step into our own individual capacities of social justice, and what does that look like? Really, we like to throw out the question of what does your social justice look like to you? For some people, it may be, writing. For some, it may be the individual connection and disrupting injustice that you may see. And for others, it may be marching, right? It just looks different for each person. So we just always like to throw that out. It's what does that look like for you? And one of why this work is important to me and also to us is M.K. Asante said that when you make an observation, you have an obligation. And I wouldn't say, and that's why I like to say my professional career when I spoke earlier, because really seeing it as, this is really a calling. It's a calling, and I feel like just us being used as a vessel, right, to really stand up for injustices. And so we're really excited and just really looking forward to connect with each person here throughout this day. And another thing I really would like to hit on is that we really try to commit to be lifelong learners, because there's so much more we're learning each and every day in these aha moments, and especially our blind spots, because there's things that we don't know, right? And there's things that we don't know that we don't even know that we don't know. And so we try to challenge and call each other forward in what are our blind spots? Because we can't constantly be going and try to facilitate workshops without constantly trying to do the work. Our own biases, things that may come up. And I think for myself, one of the things I really learned with just doing this work is that there has to be this listening for understanding, even for those that may be in opposition. I don't have to necessarily agree, but there can be some love, respect, and truly listening from where others are coming from. And so, it's like I said, I just really learned as I was coming up and I was young, and I really started learning more about terms that were giving life to my experience. I was just thinking that, they don't agree with me and don't understand my experience growing up in this country as a male of color or as a black male. And I heard something recently and it always stuck with me. And it said that war happens because both sides think that they're right. And Randy said earlier that it's true, both sides may be right, but then at the same time, there are many truths. So what can we do, right, to elevate our communities and first starting off with ourselves and our homes and really understanding our own truth first? So again, thank you all for allowing us in this space. And later, I know we're going to be really looking to share a little bit more about what we do in a different way. And so thank you, and looking forward to even just connecting with more of you before this service is over.
Well, let's stand and do a little singing. The first hymn of the morning is 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. You can access the screen or your turquoise hymnal. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
It is time for our story for all ages, so those of you who are of any age are welcome to come and up to the front for our story, or you can stay right where you are. Okay. Lots of help today. Did I hear you say you were from Texas down there, Gerard?
Why, yes, I'm from Texas, Galveston, Texas.
Well, howdy, partner.
Howdy.
I'm from a little old hole in the ground you probably never heard of.
Is that the name of the town?
Yes, absolutely. By the way, this isn't part of the Tuttit show. Okay, so let's get back on script. All right. Well, good morning, there.
Hi, Rabbit.
Hey, Squirrel.
Hello, everyone.
I've been thinking, how about forming a woodland board of education in order to teach all the animals living in the forest what it takes to be a woodland creature?
That's a great idea. I can teach about berry picking and how to take delicious honey from beehives.
And I can teach everyone how to fly and read morbid poetry. Quoth the raven, nevermore.
Yeah. And I'll teach about planting acorns and climbing trees.
And I'll teach dance lessons by showing everyone how to leap, run, and jump straight up and spin around in the air.
I can't wait to learn how to do the bunny hop.
And I've always wanted to know how to fly. The bear up there.
And I'm eager to eat honey without getting stung.
Well, looks like we have our curriculum. Let's meet back here next month and report on how things are going. The Woodland Board of Education is now in session. Does anyone care to give a report?
I hurt my paws trying to fly, and I can't get any more honey from beehives.
And I got stung so many times learning how to get honey. Now that I'm too sore to climb any trees.
I broke my wing doing the bunny hop, and I'm afraid I might never fly again. Quoth the raven, nevermore.
And I got more than a few bumps and bruises myself. Who knew learning to be like everyone else could hurt so much?
Maybe this Woodland Board of Education isn't such a good idea after all.
Maybe we should disband and never meet again. Quoth the raven, nevermore.
Maybe we should form a woodland community center instead, where we celebrate our diversity and encourage everyone to just be themselves.
Sounds like maybe we all learned an important lesson after all. That was fun. We now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this community and our mission to the larger world. Thank you, Michelina. And Michael was kind enough to light our candles of care for us. A little out of sequence, but that's perfectly okay. We also didn't rehearse that very much either. But by the way, Michael's only going to be here with us for the first service. He has some responsibility at his grandfather's, or the church where his grandfather is minister. And so he's going to be there during the second service. So we're especially pleased to have him. He's going to say a few words in just a minute, but I did want to at least let you know that Doug Grafe was moved into the hospice house this week and is not doing well at all, so probably won't be with us much longer. So please keep him and his family in your hearts and thoughts at this time. And yeah, let's take just a moment of silence on behalf of others you might be thinking of, and you'd be welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion.
Good morning. I'm just so eager to be a light. That's why I lit the candles. My name is Michael Bethley. I'm born and raised kind of here in Spokane. I was born here, moved away, and then came back. I am a pastor's grandkid. So I was raised with strict restrictions and in church and with the love embedded in me through them. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to express that same love, to show that love, to be that light. Professionally, I am a video producer at WSU Spokane, and I'm involved with my brothers here because we feel that just the work that we do has an impact, and if nobody does it, nobody's going to get it. And so I'm appreciative of the opportunity to be walking aside these young men here, because they're teaching me a lot in regards to social justice and just education altogether, and then just how to present yourself as you. And I appreciate them. I'm also appreciative of them because they've allowed me to be me, and me being a man of faith and a strong advocate for people to be, to exist, to live. I am grateful for the opportunity. And so that is who I am and where I came from. I just want to be a light into this world however I can. And I hope that you all see that light in everything that I do, and through our workshop, through our actions, through our speeches, through our puppetry, everything. So thank you.
Good morning again. I'm Randy Cordine, again, one of the GOAT Collective, and I'll be offering a reading, which is a quote from the great Mandela. And the quote that we chose to transition us into how we bring our whole selves into spaces and try our best to be authentically ourselves through the power of voice reads as follows. There is no passion to be found in playing small, in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. Mandela.
Words are sounds that are pregnant with meaning. I have a dream. We're gonna work it out. We're gonna work it out. We're gonna work it out. I have a dream that one day we will look deep within ourselves, but we gotta find a way. My dream is to be free. My dream is to be. Our children will be free. Our children will be. If no one hasn't already told you today, let us be the first to say that we see you. Because without you in this world, it would not be the same. I can say this wholeheartedly before you tell us your first, your last, or even your middle name. Because we can see those wings that you're trying to hide. God gave you a gift, spread them and fly. Stop trying to get by and just glide. But we get it. I understand. Because every time I turn on the television, my mind goes blank. Being told how to walk, talk, and act like a black man in society sees it socially acceptable for me to die as a young black man. Unconsciously conditioned, no. I'm trained not to use my mind and my head and my thoughts as a think tank. We wake up each morning and tell ourselves to be authentic and true, because once we step outside the door, we're going to be challenged in our manhood, but also what we culturally value. But I've realized I need to epitomize what it means to be a man of purpose and keep my eye on the real prize and not be fooled by distractions that are in disguise. Because we need to stay true to our culture and history, because I refuse to let our children see their bloodline as a cold case mystery. We need to know who we are and what we're about, because elevating and educating ourselves is the real way of giving our ancestors a shout out. Words are sounds that are pregnant with meaning.
Words are sounds that are pregnant with meaning. This piece is dedicated to the great Maya Angelou. Title, 5 words. 5 words is how I make meaning in this world. When the being experience has my stamina in a vice grip, steadily squeezing the essence that is my spirit, check it, I ink up. I make poetic points and efforts just to make a point, period. By words I push to the right, margin musing. Literary devices, onomatopoeia, personification, slant rhyme, ABAB rhyme, simile, metaphor, signifying, boasting, I use them. By words, I big statements on the daily in efforts to big, large statements. Nah, I big statements on the daily in efforts to try to help right some of these wrongs. Ancestors' royalty. Thus I am crowned with royal responsibilities. I am a king, and my kingdom is a free mind, and atop the mountain with pride I rule with a lofty pen. By words I am driven by passion, and for that I don't need vision to see. Purpose becomes my GPS and I just flow. It's a movement between the loops and bends of my pen. By words I am a word warrior. I draw battle lines. By words I spark pages and stages with creative combustions that craft dreams that only my dreams dream. The white space between blue line boundaries dares me with endless possibilities. I ink up, never stop chasing greatness, always achieving. By words I demonstrate authenticity and I respond with efficacy. My heart aches in my art and my page bleeds with each and every single piece. By words I die a mortal death to be reborn by the swivel of ink. By words. Words are sounds that are pregnant with meaning.
Words are sounds that are pregnant with meaning. This piece is entitled Be. Whenever I think about what I could be, or where I already should be, I realize I am who I am. I'll never be who I would be, because I am me. I'll never be at the bottom if you understand me. See, I skipped plan A, went straight to plan B. B to become a movement, not a strategy. It's a reality, not a fantasy. So what you see is what you get. No makeup, no vanity. And it's crazy because I've been trying to figure out the complexity of my sanity. And if I've been living up to the talents that God has granted me, because I was raised with a good upbringing. I want my words to have meaning and be something that my kid can listen to. So when they start intervening in my life can be theirs, and he can hear everything that I've been going through. That's why I try to lead by example, hoping, praying, believing that I can change the world with my words, even if it's just a mouthful. But some people are doubtful, and I want to take that negative energy and counteract it with love. My family, my friends, and if I have any, my enemies, because you are all entities that I believe are worth investing in. Now, I may not have a lot of money, I may not have the greatest fashion, but I still feel like I could start a trend, a one-hit wonder that wanders so wonderfully that it turns into a permanent fixture. But I can only help mend a broken heart. God's the one who can fix it. All I can do is try to get you to understand me and exactly who I be. Then try to persuade you that the God who made you and wants to save you also wants you to be, to exist, to live, to love, to give, to laugh, cry, to hope, to try. And so while you're sitting there, hopefully you're hanging on to my every word. There's just one in particular that I want you to let assist you, and it happens to be a helping verb. That, my friends, be. Words are sounds that are pregnant with meaning.
Dreams become realities when we turn them into goals, and goals become accomplishments when you be them into existence.
After all of that about words, I'm left speechless. Thank you. I see you. So I want to begin my words today by remembering the 60s. An era in American history when many would agree major progress was made in the areas of racial justice and equality. The Civil Rights Act was passed during President Johnson's administration, guaranteeing that U.S. citizens, any U.S. citizen, regardless of race or color, has the same legal rights and opportunities as any other citizen. Despite this major legal victory, many whites, especially Southern whites, resisted the law, and often through brutality and white terrorism, and by inventing the myth of reverse racism, which some actually called black supremacy, the false belief that politically empowering blacks leads to discrimination against whites, and to myths that blacks are hypersexualized and pose a threat, especially to white women, into myths of their innate criminality and laziness. These reactions and others went on to stifle what progress the Civil Rights Act was supposed to guarantee. In fact, racial progress remained stymied for another 100 years. Yes, I said 100 years because I'm talking about the 1860s, not the 1960s. That's when the 1886 Civil Rights Act was passed during Andrew Johnson's presidency, a president who unsuccessfully attempted to veto it. The fact that 100 years later another Civil Rights Act was passed under another President Johnson was in office is a weirdly coincidental example of the way history often repeats itself. But the real irony is that after an entire century, after an act was passed by Congress declaring all persons born in the United States were now citizens without regard to race, color, or previous condition, and after the 13th Amendment of 1865 abolishing slavery and the 14th Amendment of 1868 guaranteeing that all U.S. citizens have equal treatment under the law, and the 15th Amendment in 1870 prohibiting any state from denying the right to vote to any citizen based on race, color, or previous condition, too little has changed, or had changed. And in 1964, a century later, we had to pass another Civil Rights Act, guaranteeing many of these same constitutional guarantees all over again, as well as the Voting Rights Act just a year later, outlawing racial discriminating in voting. Since then, another half century has passed. Yet, as sociologist Eduardo Bonilla Silva succinctly says, to this day, blacks and most racial minorities lag behind whites in terms of income, wealth, occupational and health status, educational attainment, and other relevant social indicators. In other words, little has practically changed in this country for most non-whites since 1964. Despite 150 years of regurgitating legislation at the highest level, guaranteeing equal treatments under the law, a gravely disproportionate number of non-whites, especially African Americans, flood our overcrowded prison system in an era of Jim Crow mass incarceration, justified by the near ancient myth of black criminality, spawned by the political desire of politicians to prevent African Americans from voting for their opponents. And since 2010 alone, 14 Republican-controlled states have instituted voter suppression laws targeted at mostly non-whites, a ploy that has become even easier to pull off since the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act just a couple years ago in 2013. How is it, after so many laws have been passed, guaranteeing an end to racism and white supremacy, these plagues still exist in our society? I'm sure the answer to this question is complex, but this morning I'd like to focus on one reason. It seems to be a big part of it. Our civil rights acts and amendments haven't worked very well because they've not been passed for the right reason: love. For according to my understanding, love, justice, and equality are synonyms. Justice is what love looks like, and equality is the outcome of justice. So our laws aren't just, and they can't lead to equality if they're not motivated by love. And what exactly is love? I agree, as many of you know, with psychologist Eric Fromm, who says that the most fundamental kind of love, which underlies all types of love, includes the sense of responsibility, care, respect, knowledge of any other human being, the wish to further that person's life. Hence, we will know that our laws are motivated by love if they demonstrate the sense of responsibility for the welfare of others, respect for their individual uniqueness, the wish to let them be who they are and to remove any obstacles in the way of letting them achieve their fullest potential. White supremacy is the opposite of love for this very reason, because it excludes non-whites from these very qualities: responsibility, care, respect, knowledge, and the wish to further their lives. And although I'm a liberal, I do not use this term white supremacy liberally. It's being thrown around in a lot of unusual ways these days. But my use is the traditional definition as expressed, for example, in the Oxford English Dictionary: the belief that white people are superior to those of other races, especially the black race, and should therefore dominate society. I personally prefer sociologist Nikki Lisa Cole's definition in her article, The History of White Supremacy, a sociological definition. Historically, white supremacy has been understood as the belief that white people are superior to people of color. As such, white supremacy was the ideological driver of the European colonial projects and U.S. imperial projects. It was used to rationalize unjust rule of people and lands, theft of land and resources, enslavement, and genocide. I like Cole's more precise definition because it indicates that white supremacy is more than just a belief, it's also systemic, giving power and resources to some while intentionally leaving others out. Eduardo Bonilla Silva actually defines the term to mean racially based, this is his definition of white supremacy, racially based political regimes that emerged post-15th century. Think about that. He's saying white supremacy is 500-year-old systems. Traditionally speaking, then, white supremacy has had something to do with either believing there is something inherently superior about being white and or to do with social, legal, and economic structures and injustices constructed upon this belief. Thus, according to this definition, being white does not make someone a white supremacist any more than being a Muslim makes someone a terrorist. As a Unitarian Universalist, I don't believe in original sin, that there is any arbitrary congenital condition that makes any of us fundamentally flawed. But even if we don't hold white supremacist beliefs and don't intentionally seek to unjustly exclude others from the benefits of society, whatever our color, doesn't mean we aren't part of a white supremacist system that was set up long ago by those who did hold these despicable ideas. Again, as Bonilla Silva so succinctly puts it, after a society becomes racialized, racialization develops a life of its own. And we have a racialized system that has been developing a life of its own for 500 years. As we've been forced to realize since the illegitimate election of a white supremacist president, I always choose my terms carefully, which has emboldened white supremacist groups. There are plenty of people still around today who continue to hold these sickening beliefs, but I suspect there are far more of us, people of many colors, who don't maintain these ideas and are nonetheless trapped in racist systems established long ago by white supremacists who exterminated, enslaved, and exploited non-whites. Over the past 150 years, at least, we've tried, as I've mentioned, to resolve this problem, but again, not for the right reason. Not, that is, because as a nation we have been fundamentally committed to the welfare and fulfillment of all people. Let's consider Thomas Jefferson, heralded as the key proponent of the principles of independence, freedom, and democracy our country is supposed to be founded upon. In his book, Stamped from the Beginning, about the history of racist ideas in America, history professor and anti-racist racism researcher Ibram X. Kendi writes, Jefferson maintained that men were endowed by their Creator with inherent and inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As a holder of nearly 200 people with no known plans to free them, Thomas Jefferson authored the heralded American philosophy of freedom. Although remembered as an abolitionist, Jefferson did not consider blacks equal to whites and did not believe it possible for them to live together as such. Instead, like many calling for an end to slavery then, he wanted to see freed slaves sent back to Africa, explaining that the real distinctions that nature has made in many other circumstances will divide us into parties and produce convulsions which will probably never end but in the extermination of one or the other race. In his notes on the state of Virginia, Jefferson also claimed that nature made clear distinctions between blacks and whites, that blacks are less attractive, less intelligent, and better suited for hard physical labor. What a coincidence. So, like many abolitionists of his day, Jefferson could not accept an America that included free black men and women. Jefferson is also well known to have begun using 14-year-old Sally Hemings as a sex slave when he was 44 years old. When 2 years later he'd taken her to France, pregnant with his child, she planned to petition the French authorities for her freedom. Jefferson promised he'd give her special privileges and set her children free if she agreed to return to America with him. She bore between 5 and 7 of his children. We don't know how many for sure because he didn't officially claim them. He did keep his promise and freed those who didn't die before becoming adults. How gracious of him to honor his word and grant freedom to his children. When the 1807 Slave Trade Act made importing slaves illegal, Jefferson, like other plantation owners, began aggressively breeding domestic slaves to make a profit off the new demand for homegrown human chattel. He once told a friend, "I consider a woman who brings a child every 2 years as more profitable than the best man on the farm." Except for Sally Hemings and her children, Jefferson never freed one of the estimated 600 or more slaves he held during his lifetime, and upon his death in 1826, still had over 200 men, women, and children he considered his property. And what about that other revered figure of presidential mythology, the man who freed slaves, even praised as the great emancipator, the Black Moses? Upon inviting a delegation of blacks to the White House in 1862, seeking their support, Abraham Lincoln, like Jefferson, argued in favor of colonization, that is, sending free blacks back to Africa, something most slaves and freedmen were against. The black race, he told them, could never be placed on equality with the white race in the United States. That there would be no war if it weren't for the blacks, and that it would be extremely selfish for them to resist deportation to Liberia. Of this conversation, the great Frederick Douglass said Lincoln had shown his contempt for Negroes and his canting hypocrisy. Lincoln later told Horace Greeley that if I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. After the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation, plans were in place to grant former slaves a patch of land upon which to build a new life, and for the first time to reap the rewards of their own labor. Many argue that they couldn't truly be free without it. But instead of giving the land confiscated during the war to former slaves who had once been forced to work it, Kendi says that 90% had gone to northern whites over the widespread protest of local blacks. ensuring a level of racial poverty that has lasted to this day. In addition to land, those freed demanded suffrage, the right to vote, a right Lincoln was against. During a presidential debate, he once insisted, "I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of making black people voters or jurors. There is a physical difference between the white and black races, which I believe will forever forbid the two races living together on terms of social and political equality. And inasmuch as they cannot live, while they do remain together, there must be the position of superior and inferior. And as much as any other man, am in favor of having the superior position assigned to the white race." My friends, there can be no stronger indictment of white supremacy than words like these. These two great liberators, Jefferson and Lincoln, like so many abolitionists in American history, were simultaneously white supremacists in both thought and deed. Some pursued abolition for economic purposes, some for political purposes, and some because they genuinely believed that slavery was cruel and evil, yet remained white supremacists in their beliefs. That even if freed, there's no way for blacks and whites to share society and live together as equals. And this is the dichotomy, the milieu out of which the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and the 13th and the 14th and the 15th Amendments and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 emerged, not out of genuine love, the kind of love that is fundamental to all types of love, love based upon care and respect and the desire to see others blossom, to fully become themselves, uninhibited by prejudice and hate. In moving forward, lest we wait until the 2060s to pass another Civil Rights Act, we must make love, genuine love, the cornerstone of all we do toward racial equality. The reason racism, like all forms of oppression and domination, are unjust is because it prevents certain people, precious people, people born with so much beauty and genius to share, from fully unfolding and becoming all that they can be. In his 1964 book, Why We Can't Wait, Dr. Martin Luther King said, "A social movement that only moves people is merely a revolt. A movement that changes both people and institutions is a revolution." Today, we cannot wait another half century for another meaningless Civil Rights Act to be passed, or another 100 years, or even longer. We can no longer revolt against racist feelings and sentiments. We must rather have a love revolution that finally changes the ideas and institutions that continue to hold people down. We must attack the racist prison system and criminal justice system, the racist housing, education, and employment systems that are keeping too many of us down, with love, with the belief that all people are equal and deserve care, respect, freedom, and the opportunities to fully express themselves and become all that they are meant, Michael, to be. Thank you.
We're going to sing one that we don't sing often, that it's a lovely hymn. I've had Michelina bring it down a notch because it's kind of set really high. It's The Fire of Commitment. Please rise as you're willing and able to sing 1028, The Fire of Commitment. demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Let us gather together for the benediction. Let love and faithfulness never leave us, and we will find favor in the sight of God and man. In Jesus' name, amen.
Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom.